yeah, Echo Ministry Worship Fest. One more November 18th. I'll see a night of wondering, authentic worship unto the Lord. Sister Cynthia, Pastor Sammy, Sister Edna, Sister Evelyn. One more, and you know, Baba Tuntum Yame. Brother Emmanuel, and they said, Jumede Ebre and El Christ Pentecostal International Church. 941 West Lawrence Avenue, 5th floor. But more than I saw, Baba Dumedina Shasia, no noon pepper, 5 p.m. Na Omasi Dumedina said, Bra, na Betuntum Yame, na fa ye can see a pa, and man, I feel no quite a year, Sadia. I was say, of course, our programs even now, 15 minutes to the hour, that means 7:45. Minute Dija Dross, Ubawa, never to us part 2, Lady Edwina Conavia, Nana, I care for Son and Quansoba, Nana, Macame Musa, because Nana Umami time, I want your time to be exceeding, what no be breaching me. Would they see around? And about Jeff, that was say, we have a code there. Nice one. And Yama Money talks for so, and your emphasis, Emra. I will seek a semo so that they are betting for so free. You know, be part of the American pie. You know, and beyond a minute address, you do homecoming. Now, we are 15 minutes to the top of the hour. I best have a back. Not ever to us. Jeff, over to you.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I'm a licensed certified public accountant in the state of Illinois. I'm the owner and practitioner of my firm, Badu Tax Services, and we specialize in tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses. So today's topic is actually on a very important subject of how to build multi-generational wealth, as well while you're saving for taxes, essentially. So you're basically knocking out two birds with one stone, where you're teaching your kids how to build wealth and also save taxes on your own. But before that, I'd like to kick it off with a market report. So as of October 6, 2017, so as of last Friday, so equities continued to surge last week as each of the benchmark indexes posted notable gains, despite a late Friday's downturn. So the Dow rose 1.65%, followed by NASDAQ, Russell 2000, and then the S&P 500. Only the global Dow failed to increase by at least 1%. And then also, so basically what happened was that labor reports, they had strong wage gains, which may have enticed long-term bond investors to sell, pushing prices on the 10-year treasuries lower while inflating yields. And then the price of crude oil went down from $51.64 per barrel to $49.25. And then the price of gold actually went down from $12.8550 to $12.7890. So overall this year we've had a blast of a year. I've never seen a year this good. So Dow Jones is up 15.24% this year. NASDAQ is up 22.42%. S&P 500 is up 13.87%. Russell 2000 is up 11.28%. And Global Dow is up 15.88%. So overall, the market is doing really, really well. We're pretty much I would say we're at the peak right now. It's very, very hot. I mean, the real estate market is hot, especially in Chicago. Bitcoin is hot. Stocks are hot. Everything is pretty much hot right now. So it's I would say I don't expect a recession to come anytime soon, but just know that if you aren't in the market right now, you're losing out on some big time money. And so today's topic is really building multi-generational wealth while essentially saving for taxes. And so one of the ways that the rich continuously get richer is that they continuously build wealth on a multi-generational basis. So they teach their kids on pretty much how to build wealth early, and they can also utilize their kids as tax deductions or tax write-offs throughout the process, far beyond what the average individual is aware of. So as we're building wealth, ultimately the goal of this presentation is to teach you essentially wealth building principles on a multi-generational basis. So now it's not just you building wealth, it's your entire family, especially your kids, also building wealth. So as we're building wealth, we should aim to teach our kids wealth building principles along with ensuring that we ultimately leave a legacy. So this is really all about legacy planning, legacy building, because remember, when we leave this world with nothing, we'll be known as nothing, or we'll be known for nothing. So it's best that we leave something to those that we care about, especially our kids. So I would like to share with you a strategy that is not very well known. This is definitely one of the ways that you can teach multi-generational wealth building while you're also saving on taxes. So you're knocking out two birds with one stone. So what you can actually do, and this only applies unfortunately to business owners, those who actually own a business, what you can do is you can actually hire your kids in a company. And you can hire them as early as 6 years old. And I'll teach you why this strategy works so well and why you should incorporate it within your business. So remember that the rich pay very little in taxes because of the way their income is structured. Most rich people, they pretty much don't work for money. They invest, they own big businesses, and they don't necessarily work. The way their income is structured is that they don't work for money. Unfortunately, in the U.S., the more you work, the more you'll be taxed. So the more money you make, or the more money you work for, the more taxes you have to pay. So those who work the most end up paying the most in taxes, and those who work the least end up paying the least in taxes. And the reason why this is because when you work for money, you have to pay self-employment taxes and a bunch of these other taxes. So ultimately, when you work for money, you have to pay the most in taxes. But when you let money work for you, or when you invest, and when you have employees and things like that, you pay the least in taxes. You know, they say Warren Buffett pays about 17% or so in taxes, and the average American pays 40%. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that the average American is sharing 40% of their money with the government. So that's something to think about. Or in other words, the average American loses 40% of their money to the government, which is actually pretty scary if you think about it. So just remember that the rich, they pay very little in taxes. So what happens is that when they start a company, or when you start a company, you can use your kids, you can utilize your kids for tax benefits. So ultimately, you have access to the same tools. You know, people like to complain about, oh, the rich get all the breaks. Oh, the rich know this, the rich know that. Well, the reason why they know it is because they have the tools, and they have the same code. The tax code was created equal, basically, for everybody. Or everyone has access to the tax code. Now, certain people do benefit more. You know, if you're a business owner, you have way more write-offs compared to a W-2 employee. The W-2 employee has less than 20 write-offs in the tax code, and a business owner can have probably more than 400 or so. So there is some unfairness in that way. So then what we must do is we absolutely must start a business in some way, shape, or form. This does not have to be our full-time job. No, we're not out here starting Microsofts and Apples. This can be a small part-time thing. It can be something very, very small. Perhaps you're doing some social media advertising for certain companies. It can be very, very small. It doesn't have to be this big, humongous company. And a lot of people nowadays are actually starting businesses. We're moving into the sharing economy. We're moving into what's known as the gig economy. Especially my generation, the millennials. We love to move around. We love to, we basically like to take ownership of some of the things that we do, as far as we don't necessarily want to be glued to a desk all day. You know, we sort of want to have some sort of stake in it. We want to own businesses, or we want to freelance, basically. We don't necessarily want to work for people. And so really everyone ultimately has the same access. Everybody can look up the Internal Revenue Code right now. There's no discrimination on who has access to the Internal Revenue Code. It just happened to be that the rich, or the people who make their money by not working for it, they ultimately have more deductions and write-offs compared to somebody who does work for money. So that's just something to keep in mind throughout this presentation. And so really what you can do is you can actually hire your kids and you can put them on payroll. And what you can do is, what this allows you to do is you can actually pay for their expenses such as daycare, school, supplies, diapers, or anything like that. So instead of paying their expenses directly, instead of taking out your card and swiping at a, let's say, a Toys R Us, which unfortunately went bankrupt recently, you don't necessarily have to do that anymore. Now you can actually hire your kid, let's say as early as 6 years old. You can put them to work. Maybe they're doing some gardening work around your home office or something like that, or just they're helping stuff envelopes. They're doing something that's related to the business, and they can actually earn compensation just like you would pay any employee. So now your kids basically become employees, or technically independent contractors. And so what this allows you to do, so let's not jump too far ahead in the presentation. But ultimately, the kids ultimately can help. They can help out with daily tasks and things like that. They can help out with just really anything you can think of that is going to help your business, but it's not something very hard. For example, you can have your kid maybe clean the office around a little bit. Or maybe they sit on with you at some meetings. They take notes. They do something that's productive. And so really what this allows you to do is you can actually write off whatever you pay your kids now on your tax return, and then you can have that money used to pay for daycare and school and diapers and your shoes and clothes and things like that. You can pay for prom. All these different things you can actually pay for with basically pre-tax dollars. So that's something very powerful to keep in mind, is that you can actually hire your kids and basically turn them into employees and have them benefit, or have both of you actually win. So they're getting some money in their bank account and you're getting a tax write-off, and you're also teaching them principles of business and just life in general. So really they can help out with very small, minute tasks. They can also help out with things such as managing your social media accounts. Kids are very tech friendly nowadays, so they can maybe even schedule some appointments. They can do a lot of different things. And so the way the strategy would work is that each kid does need to have their own bank account. I remember when I was a kid, I always wish I had a bank account. I didn't have a bank account until about the age of 16. And so you can start them as early as when they come out the womb, basically. You just need to co-sign on the account if they're under the age of 18. And so you can set up their bank account. I always say this, but if I do have kids, or when I do have kids, one of the first things that I'm doing is I'm setting up a life insurance policy for my child. They're going to have a bank account. They're going to have some sort of fund going. They're basically going to have a lot of different things going for them. Because at the end of the day, we have to leave a legacy on this planet. We don't just leave this planet with nothing. We have to leave with something, or we have to leave people with something. And so what you can do is you can actually teach your kids these wealth building principles early. They can have their own bank account. They can have their own retirement accounts at a very, very young age. So the way the strategy works, to go into even more detail, is that if the child is under the age of 18, you don't have to file a W-2 form or a 1099. You don't have to issue them a 1099, as long as you don't pay them more than what's known as the standard deduction. So as long as you don't pay them over $6,300, you ultimately can write off, or you can write off up to $6,300 on your tax return, and they would have $6,300 in their bank account to pay for things such as daycare and diapers and healthcare, anything like that you can actually, that you wouldn't have otherwise paid with pre-tax dollars, or you would have otherwise paid with your own money out of pocket. So you can actually give them compensation while they're working, of course, they still have to work hard. You can put your kids to work. There's nothing wrong with that. And so the way this strategy works, or the reason why this strategy works so well, is that if you hire a kid, if the parents own 100% of the company, and you hire your child that's under the age of 18, they're no longer subject to what's known as FICA, or Social Security taxes, what we all hate to see on our paychecks. We see about 1 million different lines on our paychecks, and FICA is one of them. So they get to avoid it under the age of 18 if you hire them and you own 100% of the company. So they won't be required to file a tax return. They won't be required to you won't be required to withhold any payroll taxes or anything. So you're literally setting up a bank account. Your entity is set up. You set up a bank account for your child. You hired a child as basically a contractor, and then they start helping out with different tasks. So just like you would hire a cleaning lady to come to your house, and you pay them whenever they're done, you hand them a check or anything. If you pay them over $600, you issue them a 1099. Some people like to be under the table, but smart thing, or the right thing to do, is you would hand the cleaning lady a 1099. Well, this is no different. Now your child is the actual employee, or they're the actual contractor, and now they can have different different tasks and things like that they can help out with. So this strategy really works. It works very well if you have kids. They say there's over 1,400 financial benefits for being a traditional married couple versus a non-traditional or a non-married individual. And so when you add the kids, that number goes up even more. So this is one of those benefits, is that you can actually hire your kids in order to benefit from the tax standpoint, and also teaching them these financial principles. And if you want, you can say, hey, you can tell your child, this, out of this money that I give you, I'll let you use $500. You do whatever you want with it. Choose it to manage it however you want, and just see what they do with it. Do they go out and buy some shoes? Do they go out and start another business, maybe a lemonade stand or something? What do they do basically with the money that you hand them? And so this is just one of those things that we want to teach our kids early, is how to actually build wealth at a very early age. I wish my parents taught me these principles when I was young. Unfortunately, I didn't really learn about wealth building until I was about 21 or so. That's when I really learned how to build wealth. So these kids can be learning as early as 6 years old. And so another thing to keep in mind is that if you own an S corporation, is that you should not be paying your kids directly out of that S corporation. Instead, you would create another entity, perhaps maybe a sole proprietorship. It can be an LLC, maybe a family management company. And what you do now is you pay a management fee to that company, and then that company itself pays your kids, or they pay the kids through the entity. The reason why you want to do this is because you avoid having to pay payroll taxes. Because if you pay your kids directly through an S corp, it's going to be seen as compensation, and you would have to withhold payroll taxes. So you would basically want to hire, quote unquote, hire another company, which is your own company, and then that company hires your kids, and so you're paying that family management company for them to pay your kids. And then, so the company, of course, has to be owned 100% by the parents. And really the only purpose of the family management company or the sole proprietorship is to pay the kids. That's the only purpose. So the company would need to file a Schedule C, but no taxes will be paid on that Schedule C, because it's receiving money and then it's distributing the money right back to your kids. And then, so remember what this allows you to do is you're now allowed to pay for these daily expenses while writing them off. Can you imagine paying for diapers while still being able to write it off on your tax return? Or if you're sending your kids to prom, or if you're sending them to maybe they have some field trips, some pretty fancy field trips that you have to pay for, certain school fees that you have to pay for. Medical expenses, the million different things that people have to pay for their children, they can actually do it now on a pre-tax basis. And so, of course, the benefit is you get to deduct the amount that you pay for your kids. And remember, this is per child. This is not just for one kid. This is the $6,000 or $6,300 that you can pay per child, or you can pay. It's per child. It's not just for one kid. So that's something to keep in mind. And like I said, it's good to start this strategy when they're at the age of 6. Before the age of 6, you still want to help them build wealth. You know, you set up a life insurance policy. My preference or my recommendation is a universal life insurance policy for the child, so that they can build, or even a whole life insurance policy, so that they can build that wealth early. They can lock in their low premiums, and by the time they're ready to start college, they would have already had a policy that doesn't have to, but it could fund their education. Now imagine how much a 4-year education is going to cost 18 years from now. It's probably going to be ridiculous. They say to go to school out of in California, if you're out of state, you have to pay about $100,000 a year. So imagine setting your kids right on the right foot, in order for them to attend these prestigious institutions and things like that. You know, one of the biggest hurdles of college students is the money, the finances. So if we have it at our fingertips, if we've been working towards it, you can even tell your child that, hey, once you hit a certain age, you can, I'll give you a certain allowance, or I'll give you a new car or something. You know, if you get good grades in school, I'm going to pad your accounts a little bit more so that you can buy the things you want. But just know that we have to start the kids off early. And then, so if your kids are 18 and over, this applies to both S Corps and LLCs. You don't, so a previous point actually, if you own an LLC, you can pay the kids directly, because you won't have to deal with the payroll taxes and things like that. And so but if the kids are 18 and over, you can still use the strategy. You can use the strategy for as long as you want. But if they're 18 and over, now they become subject to FICA. And so what you want to do is, you still don't want to pay them, you don't want to pay them above that $6,300. But now what you would do is you would issue them a 1099 and not a W-2, because you want to avoid payroll taxes. So now you issue the child a 1099, and now they may or may not have to file a tax return, depending on whether their net earnings are zero or not. So I would say, so you issue them the 1099. It is recommended that you do file the tax return, but ultimately don't pay them more than that $6,300 unless they absolutely need it. You know, as they get older, you might want to bump up their earnings as well, and just keep up with the strategy. And you can also pay them out. So whether it's an S Corp, LLC, you can pay them out directly. And then another thing is through health insurance. So you can actually pay for your child's health insurance. So the way this works is that your kids can stay on your health insurance now up to the age of 26. So that's a part of the Obamacare rules. And so if you make a certain amount, you can actually go out and get Obamacare on your own. So once your kids hit a certain age, they can actually go out and get their own health insurance at a very small amount, file their own tax return, claim themselves as independent because they own a business, they earn wages, they can have their own Roth IRA account, their life insurance accounts. They might have a 529 plan. I mean, can you imagine a child that has all these different things at their fingertips, and sometimes they don't even have to know about it. You can just build this over time, and then once they hit a mature age, you let them know that, hey, you know, I've been helping you prepare for college this whole time. And then you can even add in an extra bonus. Remember, people love incentives. So if you tell them, I'll buy you a new car once you hit age 18, once you graduate high school, and you're getting ready to go to college, I'll buy you a new car. You can do it however way you want. Remember, this is your money, so you can control it. But what you can do is, let's say you're paying too much for health care, you're making a little bit too much money. You can move your kids to the independent status. They can have their own health insurance, their own Obamacare, and then they can write off their healthcare expenses as a self-employed individual on their Schedule C. So now they're basically getting healthcare for free as well as you do. And then ultimately now your kids become business owners. Now they actually own a business. I mean, so they can actually go out on their own. They can start acquiring rental properties. They can do a lot of different things. And I'll be talking more about self-directed retirement accounts next week. But your kids can now own, they can own real estate. They can own a bunch of these different things at an early age because you were teaching them these things at an early age. You hired them. You brought them on as an independent contractor. They've been self-employed their whole lives, basically. If you want, and this is another legacy planning tool where you're passing down the business to the child because you've been teaching them these principles over time. So this can go very deep. You know, you're starting them off at as early as the age of 6, and imagine that after each and every year they're learning about your business each and every year. I mean, they can always go out and do their own thing, but at the same time, a child is influenced by those that they're around and the certain things that you do for them. So if you're teaching them these business principles, they're probably going to get excited when they know they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to worry about working for somebody. They can own their own business. They can be as free as they want to be. And that's what millennials, that's what my generation or the people that's coming after me, that's what they want. They don't want to work for people. Some people are quote unquote stuck and they don't know what's the way out. So you can already show them the way in, and they can be business owners for the rest of their lives. Now, not everyone is destined to be a business owner, but if you teach somebody something for so long, it's probably going to stick with them for a very long time. So now this avoids, or this significantly prevents the problem of you passing down money to your kids and they don't know what to do with it. They mismanage it. They go out and blow it at a club or anything like that, because you're teaching them early. So I would say for a lot of people that have inherited or passed down money to somebody and they didn't properly manage it, I would say you might want to look at what the parent was teaching the child in the first place. Were they teaching them these principles? Were they educating them on these personal finance topics? So this stuff is very important. You know, people die over these things. So it's definitely imperative to teach your kids at a very early age some of these principles. And then you can even do this with grandkids. I mean, this stuff can get very, 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 very deep. You can do this for grandkids where you issue the parents a 1099, and then or you can basically hire their parents, and then their parents pay the parents pay the child just like you would hire a contractor to come do some work on your home, and they bring in subcontractors. And so the same strategy can apply where you're paying them the $6,300, and ultimately the money goes directly to their grandkids, and you get a tax write-off for it. So write-offs can really go, tax deductions can really go a long way if you know how to use the right strategies. And remember, now your child can have a retirement account. Now imagine an 18-year-old with a Roth IRA account that's been maxed out each and every year, $5,500 a year, you know, since the age of, let's say, 6, when they start working and having earned income. And then they have a retirement account, I mean, not a retirement account, but a life insurance account that they've had since they were 2 years old or 1 year old. And then they also have a 529 plan, and they might own some stocks, they might own some dividends. Can you imagine the type of impact that can have on a child when they know that they have this nest egg? And remember, this is not even easily accessible money. So this is not like your child can easily go into this money. It's just the fact that they know that they have this behind them, and you've been teaching them these principles early on in life. So this stuff can get very powerful. So I recommend that you teach your kids early and often, because remember, once you leave this world, you probably want to leave something behind, and it's most likely going to your kids. The worst thing that can happen to a person that's dead is for somebody to mismanage what they left behind. So if you're teaching your children these things early on in life, it's going to benefit you and them at the same time. And so ultimately, they're building wealth over time. They're learning money principles. And of course, you get your tax write-off. I mean, even at a certain point, you could hire them, put them on payroll, give them a 401k, $18,000 in a retirement account, and then you match them as an employer. So this stuff can get very powerful. So these are some of the strategies that the rich use to get richer, that they use for their children to, excel in life and things like this. I wish my parents would have taught me these things, but of course they probably didn't know, so they couldn't teach. If you don't know, you can't tell. So now, whoever's listening to this show or whoever's listening to the station, now you know, now you can tell. If you need any help with this strategy, you can always reach out to me. Phone number 773-679-7198. So you too have access to these tools. The rich aren't the only people that have access to some of these things. Everyone can have access. And then always seek the help of a qualified tax professional as well as an attorney when utilizing these strategies, because they are a little more advanced. But ultimately, we can all teach our kids these things early so that we don't have to worry about them mismanaging or misusing their money. So that's really all the segment for today. I definitely thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu once again, and I definitely look forward to continuously giving you all some topics. I have a whole list. Of topics coming up. I'll be talking about self-directed retirement accounts, how you can buy real estate with your retirement accounts. You can, even with your health savings account, you can actually own real estate. You can own really anything. Super Bowl tickets. You can buy businesses. You can, anything. Some of the most well-known people actually built wealth through retirement accounts. They said one of the first founders or one of the first investors of Facebook did it through the Roth IRA account. So really, that's I'll be talking about a lot of different topics, especially with tax season coming up. There's a lot of different strategies that people can utilize, and these are all things that are important, because at the end of the day, if we're building wealth and we have more money in the bank, we should be a little happier than we usually are. So thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some content. Thank you.
All right. Jeff, thank you.
Yes, Jeff, don't go off. You just said thank you. And of course, I'd like to thank you also for educating us, educating the African community, not only the African community, of course, the Uptown community, about your what you call it, your financial
education,
your financial analysis and your financial intelligence.
But that is the best way to put it.
Right. Jeff, let me ask you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I have saved like $3,000,
mm-hmm.
and I want to make something out of it. I mean, not too much, something that will suit $3,000, or something that I know when I sprinkle it out there,
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get a little bit out of it.
Okay.
What do I do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. What I would do if I had $3,000 sitting right now and I could sit on it for a long time. This is money that, assuming this is long-term money that you can afford to having it for a long time, I would first put the money in a Roth IRA account. I would preferably a self-directed Roth IRA account.
All right. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Reverse it again.
Okay.
That's the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you put that money first?
Okay. Yeah. So I would put it in a Roth IRA, and then a Roth IRA can be able to buy different assets such as real estate.
Exactly.
So I would go out and buy real estate with that $3,000. You can even go out and get some, what's known as tax liens, people who haven't paid their property taxes on time, and you can actually go out and bid on their property, and essentially, after a certain period of time, if they don't pay you, you can take possession of the property and you can sell it for a very large sum of money.
Thank you very much, Badu. But one more thing. Let's say I'm a retired worker, right? And I need to invest what I have. And I have a lump sum of money and I need to invest it. What is your advice for me?
Yeah, so you have a lump sum of money. You're already retired. So what I would probably do is, I would say, for most retired folks, they need some, longevity. They need some income that's going to last them for a long time.
Right.
So I would probably go out and get some sort of annuity, something that's going to pay you for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So basically an annuity, preferably a fixed index annuity, which you put money in, a lump sum, and then you can turn on the income payments and you would receive a check for every single month for the rest of your life. So if I had a lump sum, I would dump into an annuity. Perhaps I would maybe leave a little bit to diversify it. I would put the most in an annuity, and then maybe the remainder into, perhaps something like a bond or something that's pretty safe that I can rely on for the rest of my life.
Right. So, according to your professional skills and knowledge, what should I do as a retirement man? Like, if I'm retired, what should I do? I mean, apart from putting the lump sum investment and getting something every time, what do you think is the best for me to do so I can also enjoy old age? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I can also enjoy old age.
Yeah. So I would say, and this is very important in that, the reason why we work, the reason why we put money towards retirement is so that we can actually enjoy life, afterwards. So assuming you've been doing these things, then you can go out and, assuming your retirement accounts are pretty nicely in a pretty good shape, you can just sit back, relax, collect your retirement payments. But if you don't have that nest egg set up, you might have to sacrifice a little bit and maybe go out to work, or maybe do something part-time, while you're contributing. I mean, keep in mind that you still be earning, let's say, Social Security.
Right.
So maybe you've been working throughout the years, and so Social Security is like the backup, or it's like the nest egg that you could rely on. So if you don't have anything outside of Social Security, then I would recommend that you do something on the side. But ultimately, I think that the point is that as we should all continuously be striving to build wealth, padding our retirement accounts, making sure we contribute to our IRAs and things like that, so we don't have to worry about people bothering us or us going to work when it's time for us to be free.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff. If I want to contact you or come to your office, where do I find you? What's your number? Where can I find Jeff Badu?
Yeah, so you can call me 773-679-7198. You can visit my website at jeffbadu.com. I have a lot of resources on there.
One more time on your website. Is it JEFF what?
JEFFBADU.com.
Oh,
so
okay.
jeffbadu.com.
jeffbadu.com.
Exactly.
Right, and of course, if I'm able to ask you certain questions on your website, you can reply me, right?
Exactly. So I have a chat, or I have a message feature on my website where you can send me something directly.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming in and teaching us a lot of what we should do on our money. I got you, bro. I'm coming right to you for some consultation and making money, because I want to be rich, man.
Sounds good.
Believe me.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's community Abrante. Yes, I'm on more info and how you can reach him. So, Abrante, next week, finally, we're bringing it to an end.